Hello, and welcome to the Damien animation breakdown for shot 207. My name is Ian. I'm a motion graphics animator over at Markiplier Games. So let's jump into this. So the first things first, we have all of our footage imported here. We're actually using Photoshop documents for the entire animation. Each one has multiple layers that we can manipulate in programs like After Effects or Adobe Premiere. So here we have our compositions. We have the first composition and the second composition. The second one is housing the overall shot, and we can use that for a zoom blend later. But this one we are going to use to animate all of the individual effects. So I am going to go into here. I'm going to press T on my keyboard. That opens up the opacity layer. And as you can see, I was messing with this before. We're just going to click on this stopwatch here and click that keyframe right into place. And so what that keyframe is going to do is it's going to let us actually animate the opacity layers for this particular nested comp within our main comp. So with this comp, of course, changes the color of the scene. And so if we bring this over to here, we can turn the color down to 0. So that's the first step, is to just get our color blends in there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into this character composition here, which just has Mark being very angry and clearly looking for a fight. We're going to take this highlight layer and click on the Effects and Presets tab over here. Some folks like to use the expressions. I prefer the drag and drop method. So let's, there we go. And we're going to type in flash. And so flash, opacity flash random. What that's going to do is this is going to randomly change the opacity of the highlight layer in order to make it seem like it is flickering. And so I'm going to choose the value of 25% for the nervousness and 90% for the chance of flashing. So that is going to give me the look and effect that I want of the screen sort of like glowing and flickering occasionally, moving up and down. And so it looks like the rim light on Mark, the highlights are actually changing in intensity. And so we're also going to copy this effect. So I just press Control-C. We're going to copy this effect directly onto the mid-glow layer. And so this is going to give me the exact same random flickering and opacity beats that we want for the background glow that we see just behind Mark. And so it looks like the screen itself has sort of this heartbeat behind it that is enhancing the rim light on Mark and giving a little more depth to the scene already. So we're going to move on to the fog. And so we can move it out about that much. That should be enough. I'm actually going to move it down just a little bit too for an effect we're going to do in just a second. And so now we have a nice fog blend for this layer where the fog sort of moves out from behind Mark and moves those particles as well. And so I am going to grab another effect here, which is a distortion effect called Ripple, and I'm going to drag that directly onto the fog. And what that's going to do is you're going to see some minute movement here in the particle effects that makes them look like they are rippling and being moved by the environment. And so that is satisfactory for me at the moment. We are going to decide using this layer how the skulls, or rather when the skulls, are going to fade in. So I'm thinking around the 1 second mark roughly. We'll go a little bit past that. So I'm going to change the opacity here, and we're going to just keyframe it again. Let's see. Let's drag this back. Let's start it here, and we'll just ease that. And then we can have it end there. And we're going to ease that as well. Okay. And so now we have this really nice effect where the sort of background behind these skulls becomes more intense as the shot goes on. We already have some movement. We have flickering. We have flashing. A little bit of dynamism. All right. And we are going to go into the effect layer, and we have the crack, the shadow, and the glow haze. So the shadow can stay, the glow haze can stay. The crack itself, we want to put some things into. So After Effects has this cool function that lets you generate white noise, and that white noise we're going to use on the crack. So we're going to turn the color noise off, and we're going to turn it up to 100%, and we're just going to hit Shift-0 to render at half frames. And that's a pretty nice effect. So if I move back, we can see that that's going to overlay nicely over everything else. So we also want to go back into here. We'll close this and take a look at it. So that looks pretty nice. I like that so far. It gives the effect that the screen is broken and there's static behind it. Anything that can't render on the screen because it's not there is static. So we're going to go into the effect again, and we are actually going to go into our project here and drag in our screen footage. Now it's actually smaller than the whole image itself, because the images we're using for the animation are, click on this. They're 3800 by 2530, so we wanted to get as much quality as we could out of the renders. And so we're going to turn off the sound and the image for the screen glitch footage effect. And we are going to go into here, we're going to go into distort, and we're going to go into displacement map. And so the displacement map is going to use the screen glitch effect in order to move the crack. And we can already see that the screen itself, the crack itself, is moving in the way that we like. It's jittery, it's uncomfortable, it's sort of unnatural in the way that a lot of technology is, in the way that it moves, especially broken technology. And so we're going to move these down to 2, and we're going to keyframe them right here. And let's open this up, and let's go into those effects and get that displacement map open so we can see where our effects are. So at 2 here, I think a little bit before, we are going to go and put this up to 4. And then a couple frames after that, we're going to put it up to 15, and then back down. Oh, there we go. And then we will just put that back down to 4. We're going to copy this, and we're going to bring it right, let's do right here. What that has done is that it's going to jump. It's going to do a little bit of a jump jitter towards those keyframes and get a little bit more intense. Now here comes the fun part. So we are going to animate these faces to appear slowly over time behind Mark. So the way I'm going to do that is I am going to mask them out, and I'm going to use the pen mask tool in order to do this, because I want to capture some of the shapes of these skulls. Just drag that. We don't want it to be too sharp. And let's actually duplicate this layer right now. Then open it up, and we will just delete the masks here. That way I can see where I'm masking below it. Plus we're going to use that second layer in just a moment for something pretty cool. All right, and so they are all masked out now. We have 5 separate masks. And these 5 separate masks we are going to animate the expansion on and animate the fading on, or the feathering. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to open up to this, open all of these, and since they're all selected, we can modify the mask fade and decide how feathered we want each one. And then we're going to take each of these mask expansions and we're going to connect them to some expression controls. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to create a new solid layer, and it doesn't matter what color that solid layer is because we're just going to turn it off. We're then going to go into expression controls and we're going to choose slider control, and then we are going to do that a few more times till we have 5. So each one of these is going to individually control the mask expansion keyframes. And I want to do it this way because we already have keyframes that are going to be present for the mask feather and potentially for the opacity. But I also just wanted to show that you can use slider controls in this manner for the mask expansion. So we're going to click this layer here, and we are going to Alt Control this mask expansion so we get the pick whip. We'll click this, and we'll just pick whip up to the slider. That's going to add this expression here, which is going to let us control the magnitude of the expansion based on the slider, of which we can keyframe all in the same place as well. Okay, so now that we have all of our sliders set, we're going to start figuring out the offsets for the mask expansion for these skulls. Okay, and now these are all set to -265. We can't see the skull faces in the back anymore, so I'm just going to click this slider and give keyframes to all of these, and then we're going to go towards the end here. We'll say 20F. I'm going to actually drag these back to 1 for a reason I'll explain in a minute. And so we're going to go to 20F here in between 3 and 4 seconds, and then we're going to begin placing keyframes. And so we go here and we watch it, and they all sort of blend out and together, and they continue to blend out to the end. Animate. Perfect. And so now we have something kind of cool coming together because each piece is moving individually. And we could leave it like this, but a few more pieces of animation, some more effects were actually put into this shot. And we're going to go over those now. So we're going to take this second layer and we're going to turn the first animate faces appearing red into a Luma inverted matte. And the Luma inverted matte is going to use the top layer as a mask. And the reason we want to do that is because we are going to put a turbulent noise function onto the top layer. And we're going to choose turbulent smooth. And we're going to go into the transform. Let's go up here. Go into the transform, and we're going to scale this way up. We're going to turn the contrast way up. And I've decided I don't want the scale to be that big. I've decided I want it to be less. Yeah, that should be pretty good. Turn the contrast down a little bit. Let's turn the brightness up and turn the contrast down. And now we are going to take this turbulent noise and we're going to give this a radial blur. And what that radial blur is going to do, once set to zoom mode, is going to give this really interesting effect to the mask itself, where we get sort of this light peering through the screen. And so we're going to turn this up to high on anti-alias mode. And how much of this do we want is the question. How intense do we want it? So let's see what that looks like. Don't love it, so let's turn it back down to 12. And now let's take it and let's go from the beginning to the turbulent noise. We'll change the evolution of this all the way to the end, and we'll go to 180. And we're going to watch this render at half frames, and we're going to see how the radial blur has affected the mask, which we've used as a inverted Luma matte for the animated faces. All right. And it's not too bad. I like that effect. I'm wondering if we should increase the contrast even more. Really give it some... Yeah. All right, I like that. It looks like they're sort of shining through the screen. Okay, so now that we have the animated faces with their turbulent noise and the radial blur, we also want to turn on another distortion effect, and that is flow motion. So flow motion is going to let me pull between 2 points that I assign in the animation. So I am going to take one pin here and one pin way up here. And then we're going to go to -25 and we're going to go to 10. And what this is going to do is it's going to animate and pull between these 2 points. So we have 25 here and -25. Oops, I clicked the wrong one. That makes sense. There we go. So let's watch that. And so what this is doing again is it's just warping between 2 points. So one has an increasing value and one has a decreasing value. So it is pushing away from itself while another pulls towards it. And this creates the effect that these spirits are sort of coming from behind Mark, moving up the screen and warping a little bit, and just creating that movement. It's very, again, reminiscent of liquid or smoke. And so because these creatures, ghosts, faces, skulls, etc., come out of the screen and look like that, we really wanted to push that effect as well and give them that sort of warping. So that's starting to look really nice. The other thing that I want to do is I want to take this and let's see. Let's just put a regular noise on it and see what that does. I think we can create a really cool effect. Yeah, just like that. So you can see that this noise is showing up on the mask and actually creating that sort of static effect as if, again, this was more of a television screen of some sort than a illusory plane. Okay. So now that we've done that, we're very, very close to this being done. The last effects that we might want to do are creating the same Luma inverted map for the fog. In fact, you know what? Let's just copy it straight from the other effect instead of making a new one. It's just easier that way. And so we can see that the smoke has gained these sort of blotchy bits here, and these blotchy bits are going to evolve over time, and that's going to give us the feeling of moving dynamic smoke. So we're going to go into our blur menu, and we're going to grab the Gaussian blur, and I'm just going to turn this up to probably 20. Let's do 20, and then let's turn the contrast way down on here. Even further, even further, even further. There we go. Let's check that out. And so the smoke evolves over time, just like the noise. All right. Okay. And let's see what else we need to do. What else do we want to do? You know, I think we could take both of these layers and we could actually scale them as well, just a little bit, just to give it that extra little bit. All right, and the last thing to do is to take this, and we're going to go into this second composition here that contains the work that we've done. I'm just going to scale it up a little bit since there's a little bit of an edge on this side to this shot. We're going to position and scale, and I'm going to take this and we're going to scale it up. And we're going to bring it here. And let's scale it even more. Let's get in close to Mark. Let's get in real close. And then let's go here. And I'm actually just going to reset the scale value, and I'm going to reset the position value, and it's going to create 2 keyframes here, and we're going to get this nice effect of the camera zooming out and away to show off the emitting skulls. All right, and so let's render this out and see. And so it pulls away from Mark, the skulls appear, the red shows up. It's got that nice emission from the skulls, showing off the anger that he did everything. Although that's another shot. All right. And that's about it. And many of the shots were animated this way, each one different, each one with a different brief. Some were a little more simple. This was one of my favorite shots since it was a little bit more complex, more dynamic. I love the look of it too. It's totally badass. And that's all for now. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.